Charlie clutched the hospital discharge summary, a testament to his daughter Michaela's recent medical ordeal. The document, filled with medical jargon and numbers, offered no solace. It was a stark reminder of the relentless nature of epilepsy, a chronic condition that had dominated much of Michaela's young life. Each visit to the clinic, each treatment, seemed to chip away at her already limited reservoir of childhood joy. Without her mother, who had been absent for reasons unstated, the responsibility of caring for Michaela rested solely on Charlie's shoulders. He loved her deeply and tirelessly, sought ways to ease her condition. Yet, despite his efforts, he was painfully aware of his limitations. He was not a miracle worker, and each seizure that racked Michaela's small frame seemed to erode a little more of the hope he clung to for her future. The recent incident with the new caregiver had only compounded his frustrations. Despite her impressive credentials and a demeanor that exuded confidence during her interview, she proved ill-prepared for the harsh reality of Michaela's condition. When Michaela had a seizure, the caregiver, overwhelmed by panic, called emergency services but was too paralyzed by fear to offer much help. Her one act of presence of mind was to cushion Michaela's head with a towel and turn her to the side. Amid the chaos, Michaela inadvertently pulled a lace doily, causing a vase to topple onto her hand. The vase, heavy and ornate, left a bruise blossoming in shades of blue and red, a vivid contrast to her pale skin. By the time Charlie arrived, the caregiver had already rushed Michaela to the emergency room, leaving him to confront the aftermath alone. The seizure had lasted a mere 5 minutes, but the impact on Michaela's already fragile state was profound. Now, as Charlie reviewed the discharge summary, his heart ached with a mix of anger, helplessness, and an unwavering resolve to protect and care for his daughter, no matter the challenges ahead. At the trauma center, Charlie's emotions surged as he found Michaela in the care of the ambulance crew and the caregiver he had entrusted her to. His frustration and anger were palpable as he confronted the caregiver, his words laced with the pain of a father who felt let down. "I entrusted you with the most precious thing I have, and yet you manage such negligence." Distancing himself from the caregiver, Charlie's thoughts were clear. He needed to find a suitable replacement, someone who could understand and handle the complexities of Michaela's condition, and he needed to do it fast. Michaela, at 12, was an embodiment of courage and the center of Charlie's world. Their life together, just the two of them, had shaped her understanding of family. She rarely questioned the absence of her mother, respecting an unspoken boundary. However, one day, her curiosity broke through. Was there something wrong with my mother? There are no pictures of her in our house, no women's items, trinkets, or notes reminding of her? She asked. Charlie, valuing honesty, yet protective of her innocence, shared a simplified truth about her mother's demise due to a reckless thrill-seeking vice and a tragic encounter. But he spared Michaela the more painful details, his heart-wrenching experience of identifying his wife's body and the complex emotions he harbored for her, despite everything that had transpired. For Charlie, protecting Michaela not only meant managing her medical condition, but also shielding her from the harsher realities of their past, at least until she was ready. Paige was a striking figure, a woman of modern beauty with a slender build, long legs, and a mane of luxurious hair. Her captivating blue eyes, framed by long, fluffy eyelashes, and her naturally blushed cheeks complemented by bright, plump lips, made her stand out in any crowd. Charlie, 8 years her senior, had inherited his father's transportation business. With a keen business acumen, he expanded and transformed it, into one of the city's most prosperous enterprises. By 30, Charlie found himself the only one among his friends not yet married, a stark contrast to his peers who were already visiting maternity wards and raising families. Their paths crossed when Charlie served as a jury member at a university beauty contest, an event Paige participated in. Her stunning appearance was undeniable, even though she didn't win due to not meeting certain model standards of the time. But for Charlie, her height was inconsequential. He was in the midst of planning a new advertising campaign for his company, and Paige was the perfect fit. Their relationship began with a post-contest coffee and evolved into a partnership where business and romance intertwined. Paige became the face of Charlie's company, a role she embraced alongside accompanying him to corporate events and assisting in PR strategies during business trips. Their relationship, though not fiery or passionately romantic, was grounded in a mutual understanding and shared goals. The announcement of Paige's pregnancy led them to marriage. Charlie loved her in his own way, cherishing her presence and contributions in all aspects of his life. Upon becoming involved with Charlie, and later as his wife, Paige left her student partying lifestyle behind, embracing a new chapter in her life. Paige, with her small-town upbringing, brought an air of impeccable order and warmth to their home. The house was a haven of cleanliness and comfort, where the scent of fresh food wafted from a well-stocked fridge. In Charlie's closet, suits and shirts hung crisply ironed. Despite her delicate manicured hands, Paige's dexterity and hard-working nature, honed from a young age, shone through in her meticulous care of their home. However, their seemingly idyllic life began to unravel with a harrowing incident involving their daughter, Michaela. It was during a visit to Paige's parents to introduce their 6-month-old daughter when the first signs of trouble emerged. Amidst the familial gathering, Michaela suddenly suffered from severe convulsive seizures. The frightening episode was mitigated by the timely intervention of a local doctor present at the gathering, who provided first aid and managed the crisis. The doctor's words were a jolt to Paige and Charlie. He suspected a brain disorder in Michaela, possibly epilepsy, and urged them to seek comprehensive medical evaluation in the city without delay. That night, with Michaela exhausted and sleeping peacefully in her grandmother's embrace, they stayed over, postponing their journey home. Following this incident, a noticeable shift occurred in Paige's demeanor towards her daughter. She abruptly decided to stop breastfeeding Michaela, justifying her decision by stating 6 months was sufficient and expressing concerns about maintaining her physical figure. Their fears were confirmed back in the city, where medical examinations diagnosed Michaela with epilepsy. It was revealed that epilepsy had a history in Paige's family, tracing back to her grandmother. During the clinic's thorough investigation to pinpoint potential triggers for Michaela's condition, Charlie disclosed Paige's past involvement with various substances. The doctors acknowledged his concerns, confirming that such past behaviors in mothers could significantly elevate the risk of their children being born with neurological complications like epilepsy. After returning from the hospital, a noticeable and distressing change had come over Paige. She was markedly agitated, her frustration boiling over in demands and outbursts that were uncharacteristic of her usual demeanor. In the confines of the medical facility, she clashed with Charlie, her voice raised in desperation. "Why can't our nanny stay with Michaela instead? I'm suffocating within these hospital walls. I'm teetering on the edge of a nervous breakdown." This transformation in Paige was startling to Charlie. The woman he once knew as gentle and quietly affectionate had become increasingly irritable and distant. Her maternal affection towards Michaela, once a given, now seemed to have evaporated, replaced by a visible reluctance to engage in her care. As Charlie's commitments to his business remained demanding, Paige's presence at home became sporadic. Her nights away from home, initially dismissed by Charlie as extended outings for beauty treatments, shopping sprees, or fitness sessions for post-pregnancy recovery, masked a far grimmer reality. Paige had reconnected with a former acquaintance, a link to her past life of substance use. She slid back into old habits, exploiting the lack of scrutiny over her expenditures. Meanwhile, Charlie, absorbed in his work, failed to detect the alarming changes in his wife. The couple's relationship had strained following Michaela's first seizure, leading Charlie to afford Paige some space, assuming it would aid her adjustment. However, Paige interpreted this liberty differently, increasingly succumbing to her old vices. By the time Charlie grasped the extent of Paige's descent into her former lifestyle, it was tragically too late. She passed away in solitude, with no one nearby to intervene. At Paige's funeral, Michaela was 3 years old. Her life had been largely spent in the company of Gloria, her nanny, who had become a constant and nurturing presence. Michaela's relationship with her mother had become so distant that she sometimes referred to Gloria affectionately as grandmother, underscoring the profound shift in her young life's familial bonds. Paige's parents, residing far from the bustling city, remained largely uninformed about the complexities of their daughter's life and her untimely demise. Following Paige's tragic death, Charlie chose not to delve into the painful details with them, simply attributing her downfall to unfortunate associations with bad company. Despite the distance and limited interaction, Charlie extended financial support to Paige's parents, helping them with home renovations. This gesture led him to ponder the evolution of one's perspective with age. His own father, for instance, was still globe-trotting, exploring island after island, while Paige's parents had become somewhat distant. Their connection with Michaela, limited to sending gifts during the winter festivities and on her birthday, with their inquiries about her well-being gradually ceasing. In their own world, Charlie and Michaela adapted to a life that, despite its challenges, had its moments of joy and normalcy. Michaela, growing up, took delight in preparing simple yet favourite meals for her father upon his return from work. However, maintaining stable childcare became increasingly difficult. After Gloria, finding a nanny who could handle the intensifying severity of Michaela's seizures was challenging. Following a particularly serious episode that left Michaela with a severe bruise, Charlie found himself juggling his role as a caring father with the demands of his thriving business. His home life collided with work, as his phone buzzed incessantly and his laptop became a hub of unending emails. Realizing the necessity of finding a dependable caregiver for Michaela, Charlie tasked his secretary with the search. After interviewing several unsuitable candidates, they came across Lana, unaware of the challenges that lay ahead in caring for Michaela. Lana, marking her 30th birthday in solitude, had a life story as vivid as it was tinged with tragedy. Born in Buenos Aires, she grew up bilingual in English and Spanish, her parents being avid travelers who pursued their dream of exploring every nook and cranny of South America. However, Lana's life took a dramatic turn at the age of 12. On a night when she felt particularly upset about being left home alone, her parents made a spontaneous decision to attend a concert of their favorite rock band at a local nightclub. The tragic event that unfolded at the concert venue in Argentina was a nightmarish scene of chaos and devastation. Amidst the nearly 1,000 attendees, the atmosphere turned from exhilarating to catastrophic in mere moments. The performance, initially vibrant with dazzling pyrotechnics, quickly became a disaster as the fireworks ignited the walls and ceiling. A confluence of safety violations, obstructed exits, and flammable building materials escalated the situation. Tragically, about 200 people lost their lives in the fire, among them Lana's parents, who selflessly prioritized the safety of children, teenagers, and others over their own. Irony tinged the tragedy as the venue had 6 viable exits, all locked to prevent revenue loss, a decision that proved fatal. The crowd, initially underestimating the gravity of the situation, awaited rescue that never came. Lana's parents perished, leaving their memories etched in Argentina. Faced with the heart-wrenching decision regarding Lana's future, her grandparents residing in Denver stepped in to provide her a new home. Just 2 weeks after the tragedy, Lana found herself on a flight to the United States, leaving behind the vivid hues of South American life and carrying with her an enduring, painful grief. In Denver, Lana faced the challenges of acclimatization. Accustomed to the warmth of South America, the cold climate of Denver was a stark contrast. She maintained a connection to her cultural roots through her culinary choices, frequently adding hot sauce to her meals as a nod to her upbringing. Lana's life in Denver was marked by a routine that lacked enthusiasm. She attended school and swimming practices, but her actions were mechanical, devoid of the zest she once had. Her grandparents, while loving and supportive, were also grappling with their own profound grief over the loss of their children. This shared sorrow cast a shadow over their household. Tragedy struck again in Lana's 9th grade year, as both her grandfathers passed away within a year of each other. The subsequent decline in her grandmother's health only deepened Lana's sense of loss and responsibility. One grandmother suffered a debilitating stroke, leaving her partially paralyzed and reliant on non-verbal communication and written notes. The other was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, which rapidly progressed, leading to her passing a few months later. During her time in college, Lana came to the realization that a career in medicine wasn't her true passion. Nonetheless, she persisted with her studies, acquiring practical skills such as administering injections, setting up IVs, and performing various medical procedures. Her determination was bolstered by the financial security provided by her well-off grandparents, allowing her to complete her education without financial strain. Despite this support, Lana was acutely aware that she would eventually need to be self-sufficient. Her grandmother Leslie, the last link to her family, never fully recovered despite Lana's dedicated care. In moments of desperation, Lana would appeal to the heavens, imploring, "Don't take her away from me. She's all I have in this world." Unfortunately, her pleas went unanswered as Grandma Leslie passed away in her sleep, leaving Lana to face the world alone. After completing her studies, Lana struggled to find a job in her field, hindered by her lack of practical experience. To make ends meet, she turned to translation work, converting texts from Spanish to English. While this job provided a connection to her cultural roots and kept memories of her parents alive, it was hardly enough to sustain her. Her break came 6 months later with a job opportunity at a private clinic. The interview, conducted by Tony, a man 10 years her senior, resulted in her hire. However, Lana soon discovered Tony's hidden motives, leading to her resignation only a month later. Disillusioned, she sought a job that was both fulfilling and financially viable. To survive, Lana resorted to private tutoring, teaching Spanish. However, the demand for these lessons was low and her earnings were minimal. This period of her life was marked by increasing despair as she longed for the warm embrace and sunny presence of her parents. On the brink of her 30th birthday, Lana found herself grappling with a profound sense of solitude. Her world was circumscribed by fleeting surface-level friendships and a handful of professional contacts, leaving her at times struggling with a sense of purpose. It was during this period of despondency that an unexpected phone call broke her routine. Initially wary, assuming it might be a promotional scam, Lana was taken aback to hear a familiar, cheerful voice on the other end. It was Wendy, a former college classmate known for her buoyant spirit, who had always sat next to her in lectures. This was the first time a former classmate had reached out to her, and Lana couldn't help but wonder about the timing and reason behind Wendy's sudden reconnection. Wendy's call was not merely a catch-up, it carried a proposition. She explained her current role as a personal secretary for a businessman named Charlie, describing him as a man marked by personal misfortune. His daughter suffered from an incurable illness, a topic Charlie seldom discussed. Wendy, in her role for the past 3 years, had faced a challenge with the last caregiver she had employed for Charlie's daughter, a hiring decision that had backfired. Now, under the pressure of an ultimatum from Charlie, she was tasked with finding a new caregiver, someone with a blend of teaching and medical skills. It was for this reason she reached out to Lana, appealing for her help. Lana, taken aback by this unexpected proposal, was hesitant. Such a drastic change was not in her immediate plans. She promised Wendy to contemplate the offer, acknowledging her current job search, but expressing her unpreparedness for such a sudden shift. Post-call, Lana's mind was awash with conflicting thoughts. She recognized her weariness with the loneliness and aimlessness that had come to define her life. Perhaps, she mused, this was the opportune moment for a fresh start. 3 days later, with a mix of nerves and anticipation, Lana boarded an airplane heading towards warmer climes, the journey faintly reminiscent of her days in Argentina. Charlie had made a specific request for Wendy. His needs extended beyond a mere caregiver for his daughter. He sought someone who could also be a friend to Michaela. He conveyed this to Wendy in a personal rather than professional capacity, emphasizing the importance of finding someone who could fulfill both roles. With imminent plans to travel to South America for business negotiations, Charlie stressed the urgency of securing a reliable, compassionate individual to care for Michaela in his absence. Wendy, known for her resilience in the face of challenges, embarked on a meticulous search through her contacts. She even delved into her list of backup options, searching for the perfect fit. Her quest initially yielded no significant discoveries, leading her to reassess Charlie's specific requirements: a candidate with a cheerful demeanor, medical expertise, and a knack for swift decision-making. It was then that a vivid college memory resurfaced. She remembered Lana, her smart and resourceful classmate, adeptly treating Wendy's foot injury caused by a rusty nail, using nothing but torn strips from her own shirt as bandages. "Lana," Wendy murmured, an epiphany striking her. She had indeed found the ideal candidate. Although uncertain about persuading Lana, a bright former college mate holding a nursing degree, to relocate south, Wendy decided to take the plunge. To her own astonishment, a few days later, she was greeting Lana in her town, ready to introduce her as the potential caregiver. Charlie had entrusted Wendy with complete authority in this matter. In the meantime, Michaela was left in the care of the cook housekeeper for the day. Charlie, placing considerable trust in his secretary's judgment, eagerly awaited the new hire. "Is she the kind of person I'm looking for?" he asked Wendy. She nodded affirmatively, prompting Charlie to express his trust in her ability to tackle challenging issues. He shared his disillusionment, with the superficial promises of agencies, emphasizing his unique requirements in a caregiver that they failed to comprehend. As Wendy and Lana journeyed from the airport, Wendy enthusiastically briefed Lana in the taxi about Michaela's eagerness for her arrival. As they drove through the winding road and woods, Lana suddenly asked the driver to stop. Wendy's brows furrowed in confusion as Lana hurried out of the car. Moments later, Lana returned, cradling a cat box containing a mother cat and her kittens. Wendy's eyes widened in surprise. "How did you even spot them?" she asked. Lana explained, her voice tinged with sadness. "Someone must have abandoned them. I couldn't just leave them there." Wendy admired Lana's kindness, but felt compelled to voice her concerns. "Lana, I understand, but you should know my boss is quite particular. He might not appreciate us bringing stray animals into his home." Lana's eyes met Wendy's, determination shining in them. "I can't turn my back on these poor creatures. If your boss won't allow me to shelter them until I find them a home, then perhaps this job isn't the right fit for me." Wendy sighed, torn between her duty to her boss and her empathy for Lana's predicament. Wendy refrained from voicing any more concerns. Her mission had been to find someone with a unique combination of teaching and medical skills, and in Lana, she believed she had succeeded. Any additional traits, Wendy reasoned, were for Charlie to evaluate. Perhaps prioritizing compassion wasn't such a disadvantage after all. Only time would reveal the true impact of her choice. The tranquility of Charlie's house was palpable in its courtyard, disturbed only by Phil, Michaela's cherished corgi. The little dog enthusiastically scampered about, his short legs carrying him swiftly across the green lawn in pursuit of a ball. As a vehicle rolled towards the porch, Michaela emerged at the doorway, accompanied by Rachel, the housekeeper. Rachel, a woman in her mid-50s with a wealth of experience, had been a cornerstone of the household since its inception. Acting as both house manager and guardian, she had grown deeply attached to the home and its inhabitants. Her attention quickly shifted to the cat box cradled in Lana's arms. Lana wasted no time in explaining the circumstances surrounding the kittens and their mother, which she had discovered abandoned by the roadside. Rachel scrutinized Lana, then announced decisively, "Michaela has been tested for allergies, including fur, particularly after her seizures. We've ensured she has no adverse reactions. While I cannot permit you to bring them into the main house without Charlie's consent, the summer kitchen can serve as a temporary shelter. How is the mother cat? Does she have sufficient milk for all 4 kittens?" Wendy, who had been silently observing the exchange, felt a wave of relief wash over her. The potential risk to her professional reputation seemed to have been averted. Meanwhile, Michaela's fascination with the kittens was evident. She had never experienced such intimate proximity to tiny, fluffy animals before. Eager to be involved, Michaela quickly offered to lead the way to the summer kitchen, her eyes shining with excitement, hoping Rachel wouldn't reconsider her decision. As they strolled along the neatly tiled path, Lana and Michaela exchanged introductions. Lana, with a friendly demeanor, suggested, "You can call me just Lana." Michaela, a touch of shyness in her voice, replied, "And I'm Michaela. Could you tell me again how you found the cat and her kittens on the road? Is it true someone abandoned them there?" Lana, sensing Michaela's distress, offered a comforting smile. "Don't be so upset," she encouraged. "Remember, there are more kind-hearted people than cruel ones in this world. We're fortunate to have the opportunity to nurture these vulnerable creatures and witness their growth. It's truly special to see them evolve from their helpless clumsy kittenhood into elegant, independent cats. Curiosity sparked in Michaela's eyes. "Do you have any children?" she inquired abruptly. Lana's expression softened with a hint of melancholy as she answered, "Not yet, but I'd love to have children someday, ones as adorable as you." Their heartfelt exchange bridged a connection between them. Michaela felt an instant trust towards Lana, sensing that this new caregiver would offer understanding and support. Together, they prepared a cozy sanctuary for the cat family in the summer kitchen. Meanwhile, the security guard transported Lana's luggage to her room, conveniently located next to Michaela's. Shortly afterward, they joined Rachel for a delightful tea time, complete with freshly baked pancakes prepared by the cook. The bond between Michaela and Lana grew stronger each day, rooted in a shared, unspoken understanding. Both yearned for the parental love they lacked in their lives. When Charlie returned home from his business trip, his daughter greeted him with an exuberant hug and a cheerful squeal, brimming with excitement to share her experiences. "Dad, everything was great while you were away. Lana has been wonderful. She's been spending a lot of time with me and even helps with my homework." Charlie pondered over the name Lana, deciding he should have a private conversation with her to form his own impression. He valued first-hand observations over second-hand descriptions, preferring to rely on his personal judgment. His recent business trip to South America had been remarkably successful, a venture any shrewd entrepreneur would envy. He was already planning collaborations with maritime transport companies for large-scale imports of coffee beans from Brazil and Colombia. Coffee, he knew, was a reliably lucrative commodity. He was also exploring opportunities with Argentina and Chile for their exceptional seafood. In a month's time, Charlie was to host his new business partners from Argentina and Colombia. It was his turn to welcome foreign delegates on his own turf. These thoughts of upcoming ventures were interrupted by a soft knock on his office door. Regaining his composure, he called out in a gentle tone, "Who's there? Please, come in." Lana entered, her appearance striking and distinctive. Charlie couldn't help but notice her resemblance to the women he had seen in South America. "I've never been particularly drawn to this style of beauty," he mused to himself, "but there's no denying she possesses a certain wild, untamed allure." He quickly brushed aside these thoughts, focusing his attention on Lana, who stood before him, undoubtedly the new caretaker he had heard about. "My name is Lana," she introduced herself. "I'm Charlie, Michaela's father. How do you find the working conditions here? Do you have any concerns or suggestions?" he inquired, keen to ensure her comfort. "Thank you. Everything has been exceptionally comfortable," Lana responded reassuringly. "The only concern I have is regarding a certain liberty I took. I'm not sure of your stance on it and would like to discuss it with you." Charlie's eyebrows arched in surprise, a silent query etched across his face as Lana began to explain. "I arrived with an unexpected addition, a family of cats," Lana disclosed. "Wendy and I found them abandoned on the highway. During your absence, Michaela has grown particularly fond of one of the kittens. We plan to find homes for the rest, but I suspect Michaela would be reluctant to let go of her new pet." Charlie let out a sigh of relief, his concerns about possible health issues with Michaela dissipating at the mention of something so benign. "A kitten, you say? Well, I have no objections to welcoming another pet alongside Phil. Have you and Michaela thought of a name for this new addition?" he inquired. Lana, visibly relaxed, replied with a smile. "We haven't decided yet. Michaela was hoping you might have a suggestion or make the decision." "If it's a male kitten, how about we call him Max?" Charlie proposed, his expression softening into a smile. I've recently made significant strides in business ventures related to South America. Maybe Max can be my lucky charm." Lana felt a pang in her heart at the mention of South America, a place intertwined with painful memories, but she masked her emotions well. After their conversation, both were left deep in thought. Charlie found himself unexpectedly intrigued by Lana. His usual preference in women had always been those who resembled his wife. Fair, delicate, ethereal. Yet, Lana's grounded presence and the wistful look in her eyes evoked a desire in him to protect her from life's harsh realities. Lana, on the other hand, was lost in her own thoughts. Charlie's demeanor reminded her of her father, not in appearance, but in a certain steadfastness, an assurance of reliability. This resemblance fortified her resolve to do everything within her power for his daughter, and, increasingly, for him as well. She even allowed herself to entertain the fleeting notion that she might have found a place where she would be truly welcome. As time marched on, the days fell into a regular rhythm, structured around Michaela's well-established routine. The daily routine at the house was meticulously structured, centering around Michaela's education and well-being. It included school sessions, participation in a French language club for overall intellectual development, mandatory outdoor excursions, and regular visits to the swimming pool. In the autumn season, ocean swims were off the table, or else Lana and Michaela would have also enjoyed beach outings, always under the watchful eye of a bodyguard. Back at the house, Max, the kitten, had become an integral part of their daily life. Rachel was pleasantly surprised when neighbors responded enthusiastically to her request to adopt the remaining kittens. The kitten's mother found a new home with Rachel herself, who remarked, "My daughter may never marry, destined for solitude, but at least she'll have a living soul to keep her company." Max developed an unbreakable bond with Michaela. He would only eat when she filled his bowl and drank water only when she poured it. His playful antics were a highlight for everyone. He would clamber up Michaela's back, scale her jeans and sweater, and triumphantly perch on her shoulder. His unique sleeping habit involved cuddling on Michaela's head, his paws gently embracing her hair. At first, Charlie was hesitant about this arrangement, but soon Lana convinced him that Max's devoted companionship could be therapeutic. After all, it's well known that cats can offer healing comfort with their purring. Lana had been at the house for nearly a month, and, thankfully, had not witnessed any of Michaela's seizures. She was well versed in Michaela's medical history and felt professionally prepared for any unexpected incidents. However, the reality was more alarming than she had anticipated. The seizure occurred unexpectedly on a day off. Charlie had given Rachel and the cook a break, leaving only the security guard, a former military man, in charge of monitoring the house. The entire staff was acutely aware of Michaela's medical condition and treated her with utmost care. Thus, when Michaela suddenly dropped Max and collapsed beside the sofa, the guard immediately yelled out, "Lana, Michaela is having a seizure." Lana had briefly stepped away to the bathroom, expecting to be gone for just a few minutes. When she emerged, it was with a sense of urgency. At that exact moment, Charlie materialized seemingly out of nowhere, drawn by the commotion and the bodyguard's urgent yelling. His eyes immediately fell upon Lana, who was now attentively tending to Michaela. The sight stopped him dead in his tracks, a mix of confusion and concern etched on his face. Charlie watched, a mix of surprise and awe coloring his expression, as Lana moved with precision and purpose around the room. Her actions were deliberate and efficient, betraying no hint of hesitation. It was as though she had been handling epileptic seizures on a daily basis. For Charlie, each of Michaela's seizures was a harrowing ordeal, a part of him withering away with every convulsive spasm his daughter endured. Yet Lana, with a demeanor bordering on calm detachment, administered an injection to ease the seizure, then turned to a pale-faced Charlie. "She's going to feel better now. Do you need something to calm down?" she asked, her tone a blend of professionalism and concern. Charlie, still in a state of shock, shook his head. Before their eyes, Michaela's condition visibly improved. Lana's voice, steady and reassuring, broke through Charlie's daze. 2 minutes, 16 seconds, a remarkable result given her condition. "We need to move her to the bed. The medication I administered has a sedative effect. She'll wake up as if nothing happened." When they glanced back at Michaela a few moments later, they found Max, the kitten, comfortably settled on her pillow. Lana signaled to Charlie not to disturb the kitten. As she moved to sit by Michaela's bedside, she caught a glimpse of Charlie's gaze laden with agony and despair. In an uncharacteristic and impulsive gesture, Lana approached him, wrapped her arms around him, and hugged him, not with passion or invitation, but with an intent to comfort. She understood the depth of his fear, his exhaustion from constant worry, and his struggle with the terrifying prospect of losing his child. Charlie, visibly affected, relaxed under Lana's empathetic touch. He looked at her with gratitude, then abruptly exited the room. He couldn't allow Lana to see the turmoil her gesture had stirred within him, the unfamiliar swirl of emotions that he shouldn't be experiencing. Over the past few days, he had come to realize that Lana, the new caregiver, was affecting him in ways that were unsettling and unexpected in his own home. Charlie retreated to his office, his mind swirling in a vortex of confusion and longing. The intensity of his feelings for Lana left him feeling unsteady, his usually steadfast reasoning buckling under the weight of his desire. When Lana later entered his office to report, Charlie, overwhelmed by his emotions, impulsively embraced her at the doorway. Lana's silence in response to his advance, neither yielding nor resisting, only fueled his ardor. That young woman had an uncanny ability to unsettle him, to strip away his self-control. Charlie's eyes conveyed a desperate longing, reminiscent of a tragic romance where the hero yearns hopelessly for his beloved. He hesitated briefly, a flicker of rational thought crossing his mind, a reminder of his age and the imprudence of his actions. But the pull of his emotions overpowered his logic. After Lana left the office, Charlie berated himself for his lapse in self-control, firmly resolving to maintain only professional interactions henceforth. He contemplated compensating Lana with a bonus or an expensive gift to atone for his conduct. Lana, on the other hand, perceived the incident as a momentary loss of control, an outburst of pent-up tension. Her intuition suggested that time would reveal the true nature of this unexpected passion. On that eventful day, Charlie's house was a hive of activity. Michaela, having swiftly recovered from her recent seizure, was enjoying a peaceful day. She split her time between her studies and playing with her pampered pet, Max. The atmosphere around her was one of contentment and joy. Meanwhile, the living room had been transformed into a venue for the upcoming meeting with Charlie's South American partners. Opting for a more personal touch, Charlie had decided against holding the signing of his company's vital contracts in a formal setting like a restaurant or his office. He believed that the warm and relaxed atmosphere of his home would lend a more genuine feel to the proceedings. In the background, the cook was diligently preparing for the business dinner that would cap off the evening. The guests arrived, accompanied by Charlie's deputy. Understanding the gravity of the occasion, Lana took Michaela out for a stroll, keeping her away from the critical business discussions. Despite the crisp, nearly frosty air, Michaela enjoyed her time outdoors, playing with Phil and inquiring eagerly about when they could return. She was curious to catch a glimpse of the significant guests her father had been anticipating and missed the company of Max. Upon returning to the house, Lana found herself hearing a conversation in Spanish. The language was painfully familiar to her, and she tuned in more closely, reminiscing the days in Buenos Aires. Meanwhile, Charlie, ever the gracious host, entered the room to serve drinks to his guests and finalize the business deal. His deputy was busy preparing the essential documents in the office. The men at the table exchanged trusting glances with Charlie, their conversation peppered with jokes and laughter. The room resonated with the sound of glasses clinking in a toast to their anticipated success, just as the deputy made his way in with the necessary paperwork. After finalizing the necessary documentation, the business partners were escorted outdoors by their host, Charlie. As they were leaving, Charlie realized he had forgotten an item in the room and promptly returned to retrieve it. Meanwhile, Lana was quietly seated in the living room, engrossed in a book. Unnoticed by the departing guests, she became an inadvertent eavesdropper. It was then that the two men, assuming they were alone, switched to speaking Spanish. Their conversation, unbeknownst to them, was not lost on Lana. A particular phrase they uttered caught her off guard, causing her to startle and inadvertently jerk her hand, disrupting her calm reading posture. A few days later, an opportunity arose for Lana's plans to unfold. Michaela had persuaded Charlie to join her on a school field trip, a rarity for him. Usually, Lana would accompany them, offering her support and presence. However, this time, she requested to stay behind at home, a decision that perplexed Charlie, though he didn't voice his concerns. Lana's choice to remain at home was deliberate and driven by a specific purpose. There was a nagging uncertainty in her mind, a puzzle she felt compelled to solve. With the house presumed empty, Lana made her way to the one place that might hold the answers, Charlie's study. Normally secured and off-limits, Lana, armed with knowledge provided by Rachel, knew where the keys were kept. With cautious precision, she unlocked the study door and entered. Inside, Lana's eyes scanned the room before she began her meticulous search. She rummaged through drawers, sifted through folders on shelves, but her efforts seemed fruitless. That was until she noticed some papers on the desk. Curiously tilting her head for a better view, she realized their potential importance. Swiftly, she took out her phone and captured the documents in photographs, a silent record of her discovery. Unbeknownst to Lana, her actions triggered a silent alarm. Every unauthorized entry into the study sent an alert to the security guard's phone. As she delved deeper into the secrets within the room, unaware, a silent sentinel had been alerted to her presence. That evening, a palpable sense of unease filled the house as Michaela and Charlie did not return home. Lana, left in the dark about their whereabouts, continued with her usual household activities, albeit with a growing concern. The following day brought no sign of them either, heightening the mystery. The unexpected arrival of the security guard the next morning broke the unsettling silence. He approached Lana with an air of formality and a message that left her bewildered. "I'm sorry, Lana, but Charlie has decided that your services are no longer required," he announced in a tone that brooked no argument. Confused and seeking clarity, Lana questioned, "Has something happened? Is everyone all right?" Her voice was tinged with worry, reflecting her concern not just for her job, but for the family she had grown close to. The security guard, maintaining a professional demeanor, offered no explanation. "I'm not at liberty to discuss any details. All I can say is that this decision is final," he replied, his expression unreadable. "We need to leave for the airport immediately. Arrangements have been made for your return." Lana, still reeling from the sudden turn of events, could only nod in stunned silence, her mind racing with unanswered questions as she prepared to depart from a place that had become a significant part of her life. The early morning tranquility was briefly interrupted as a taxi arrived, waiting at the front gates. Lana, carrying a mix of confusion and sorrow, quietly stepped into the vehicle. As the taxi drove away, Charlie's car drove into the driveway. Michaela, filled with an exuberant energy, burst out of the car and dashed towards the house. Her absence had only made her longing for home stronger. She rushed in, her voice echoing through the halls as she called out for Lana and Max. Max, the ever-attentive cat, appeared from the living room, meowing in greeting. But there was no response from Lana. As Michaela's calls for Lana went unanswered, Charlie entered the house, his expression a mix of weariness and resolve. Michaela, with a growing sense of panic, turned to her father. "Where's Lana?" Charlie, understanding the gravity of the conversation ahead, gently guided Michaela to the sofa. Sitting beside her, he began to explain. "Lana, she had to be let go." Michaela's reaction was immediate and visceral. Her breaths became rapid and shallow, tears welling up in her eyes. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "She was the best caregiver and nanny I ever had. She was always so nice to me." Charlie, now a father tasked with the difficult role of consoler, tried to soothe his daughter's distress. "It was for the best, for everyone," he said, though his words seemed to provide little comfort. Michaela, unable to accept the sudden change, continued to express her deep attachment to Lana, highlighting the bond they had formed. It turned out that upon being briefed by his security guard, Charlie's perception of Lana underwent a drastic transformation. The guard presented him with evidence of Lana's intrusion into his private study, a domain she had no authorization to enter. The footage was unequivocal. It showed Lana discreetly taking photographs of sensitive documents on his desk. Charlie and his family had encountered their share of petty blackmailers in the past. These individuals would usually seek a payoff in exchange for silence or non-interference. Given this history, Charlie's mind quickly jumped to a similar conclusion about Lana. He surmised that she, too, might be aiming to use the photographed information for financial gain. This realization was a bitter blow for Charlie. He had always seen Lana in a different light, considering her to be special and even feeling a personal attraction towards her. Her actions shattered this image, relegating her in his mind to the ranks of those driven by greed. "Can't believe Lana would do this," Charlie said to his security guard, a mix of disbelief and disappointment evident in his voice. "I thought she was different, not someone who'd stoop to blackmail for money." The security guard, maintaining his professional demeanor, simply nodded in agreement. "The evidence is clear, sir. It's unfortunate, but these situations can be deceptive." As he reflected on the situation, Charlie's feelings of betrayal deepened. Lana, in whom he had placed his trust and whom he had viewed with a certain fondness, had seemingly betrayed that trust. The realization that she might have been motivated by the same monetary desires as previous opportunists left him feeling both disillusioned and saddened. In the quiet of Lana's room, Michaela found solace, holding Max close and surrounded by memories of the joyful times spent with her now absent caregiver. The room, a capsule of happier moments, provided a temporary escape from the confusing reality outside its walls. Charlie entered, his mind burdened with the task of explaining Lana's abrupt dismissal. He knew the truth was complex and potentially hurtful. Sitting beside his daughter, he wrapped an arm around her, offering a comforting embrace. "Everything's going to be okay," he assured her, though his voice carried a weight of uncertainty. As they sat together, Charlie's attention was inadvertently drawn to the computer screen in the room. On it was a photograph of the recent contract he had signed with his business partners. Intrigued and puzzled, he gently disengaged from Michaela and approached the computer. His eyes scanned the open browser tabs, each revealing a piece of a larger puzzle. Gradually, realization dawned on him, his expression shifting from curiosity to disbelief. "I've made a huge mistake," he muttered, gripping his head in dismay. But his regret was not directed at Lana. It was about his business partners. Glancing at the clock, Charlie made a swift decision. He turned to Michaela, his demeanor changing from despair to determination. "Honey, do you still want to keep Lana as your caregiver?" he asked, a hopeful note in his voice. Michaela, amidst her tears, looked up in surprise at her father's unexpected question. "Yes, Dad. Of course," she replied, her voice tinged with a mix of hope and confusion. "Then get dressed quickly. We need to hurry," Charlie urged. Within minutes they were in the car, speeding towards the airport. Charlie's revelation had not only altered his view of Lana, but had also ignited a sense of urgency to rectify a wrongful decision. As the city blurred past them, there was a shared sense of purpose and anticipation, a race against time to undo a mistake and reunite with someone who had become an integral part of their family. Michaela and Charlie rushed through the bustling airport terminal, their hearts pounding with urgency. They arrived just in time to see Lana, a forlorn figure about to board her flight. Without hesitation, Michaela's voice echoed across the crowded space. "Lana! Lana! Wait! Don't go!" At the sound of Michaela's familiar voice, Lana turned around, her expression a mix of surprise and relief. The sight of Michaela's tear-streaked face and Charlie's exhausted but determined demeanor brought a faint smile to her face, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Michaela didn't hesitate. She ran towards Lana and wrapped her in a tight, heartfelt embrace. Lana, taken aback by the sudden show of affection, returned the hug, a sense of warmth enveloping her. Charlie approached them, his face etched with remorse. "Lana, I'm so sorry," he began, his voice laden with sincerity. "We misunderstood the situation, and I acted hastily without knowing the full story. Please forgive me." Lana, still in the embrace of Michaela, looked over the young girl's shoulder at Charlie. She could see the genuine regret in his eyes, a stark contrast to the misunderstanding that had led to her departure. The puzzle pieces began to fall into place, revealing the true nature of the situation that had led to Lana's unjust dismissal. It all hinged on a conversation Lana had inadvertently overheard, a conversation in Spanish between Charlie's business partners who assumed their words would go unnoticed. Lana, fluent in Spanish, caught a phrase that raised her suspicions. "This fool was easier than I thought." This offhand remark, presumably about Charlie, piqued her curiosity and prompted her to delve deeper. Determined to protect Charlie and his interests, Lana began a thorough investigation into the backgrounds of these so-called partners. Her diligence paid off when she uncovered a disturbing pattern. These individuals were not mere businessmen. They were involved in drug trafficking. Their modus operandi was to target naive entrepreneurs, particularly those unfamiliar with the business landscape of South America. This discovery painted a grim picture of the predicament Charlie had unknowingly walked into. Lana's actions, initially misinterpreted as betrayal, were in fact a silent guardian's effort to unearth a dangerous truth. Her dedication to safeguarding Charlie and his family had inadvertently led to her own sacrifice, a twist of fate that was now unraveling in the light of the new revelations. In the tranquil ambience of the evening, Charlie, carrying a large velvet case, made his way to Lana's room, his steps measured and purposeful. He paused at her door, presenting the case with a gesture of humility and reconciliation. "Lana, please accept this as a small token of my gratitude," he said, his voice tinged with sincerity. "Forgive me, it was a big mistake to doubt you." Lana, with a gentle touch, opened the case. Inside, nestled against the smooth silk lining, lay a necklace, its topazes and diamonds glistening, a blend of elegance and extravagance. The necklace was not just a gift, it was a symbol of Charlie's deep appreciation and an acknowledgement of her unwavering loyalty. Overwhelmed by the gesture, Lana's emotions surged forth. Tears cascaded down her cheeks, not as a sign of sorrow, but as a release from the emotional turmoil she had endured. She turned to Charlie, her voice soft yet resolute. "Don't worry. I'm just letting go of all my past miseries to make room for our future. I haven't been able to cry for so long, and now it feels like a dam has broken. I know everything will be all right now." In that moment, the room was filled with more than just the sparkle of jewels. It was imbued with a sense of healing and hope. In the quiet confines of his study, Charlie stood face to face with the security guard, the man who had, albeit unintentionally, steered him towards a grave misunderstanding about Lana. Charlie was prepared to terminate the guard's employment, his decision fueled by the guard's misjudgment and the resulting turmoil it caused. As the conversation reached a critical juncture, Lana entered the room, her presence immediately altering the dynamic. With a composed and understanding demeanor, she addressed Charlie. "Could we let him stay? After all, he was acting out of concern for our safety." Lana's interjection, advocating for the security guard, who had mistakenly identified her as a threat, was a testament to her graciousness and empathy. Her willingness to see beyond her own ordeal, recognizing the guard's intentions were to protect rather than harm, displayed a depth of character that left Charlie deeply impressed. This unexpected act of kindness and forgiveness from Lana not only saved the guard's job, but also reinforced her standing in Charlie's eyes. Her capacity for understanding and compassion in the face of personal adversity spoke volumes, further solidifying the respect and admiration Charlie held for her. A week later, the house was filled with a warm and inviting atmosphere, a stark contrast to the recent tumultuous events. Rachel, ever the efficient and cheerful presence, was in the kitchen, orchestrating the preparations for a special dinner with her usual flair and enthusiasm. Meanwhile, in her room, Michaela was absorbed in her own world of hopes and wishes. As she readied herself for the dinner, she closed her eyes and silently wished for a complete family, a father, a mother, a child, a unit bonded by love and mutual understanding. She yearned for the feminine touch in the house, for new photographs that captured moments of their peaceful, everyday life. Her thoughts also turned to her health. She hoped that her seizures, which had caused so much worry and fear, would become less frequent, less frightening. Caught up in her reverie, Michaela pondered what more she could wish for. When her gaze landed on Lana, standing at the doorway with a gentle smile. Michaela's face lit up in response, a reflection of the comfort and joy Lana brought into her life. In that serene moment, Michaela felt a shift within her. For the first time, she didn't feel the need to press her father about the past, about what had happened to her mother. Lana's presence had begun to fill the void she had always felt. Michaela started to see Lana not just as a caregiver or a friend, but as someone she could lovingly call Mama. This newfound feeling of completeness, of having a family once again, brought a sense of peace and contentment to her young heart. Lana, standing at the doorway, observed Michaela with a tenderness that spoke volumes. Throughout her life, Lana had often grappled with a sense of solitude, a lingering feeling of being on the periphery of true belonging. But in this moment, as she watched Michaela's smile of genuine affection, Lana felt a profound shift within herself. She realized that her patience and resilience through the years of loneliness were now bearing fruit in the most unexpected and rewarding of ways. The warmth and acceptance she felt in this household, and particularly from Michaela, were filling a void she had long carried. The bonds that had been forming over time, strengthened by recent events, were now evolving into something deeper, something akin to a real family. For Lana, this sense of belonging, of potentially having a family of her own, was a newfound joy. It was a feeling that transcended the mere physicality of being together. It was a connection of hearts and souls, a feeling of being valued, loved, and truly at home. The quiet acknowledgement of this developing bond brought a sense of fulfillment and contentment to her life, a reward for her enduring spirit and compassionate heart.